Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ask Nancy. And for those of you that are watching the replay, thanks for joining. I hope you get value out of this. Share it with your friends and remember to submit questions. If you have any kind of communication questions, just shout them out. You can send them to me on social. You can email me on my website, nancyRberger.com. Today, I'm thrilled to have with me my pal, Christina Previte, who is a divorce attorney and so many other things. But she's joining me today to talk about this great topic, how to navigate tricky life transitions. Welcome, Christina. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm excited to be here. I've had you on my show numerous times, so it's nice to have the tables turned a little bit this time. So I'm Christina Previte. I have been a divorce lawyer in New Jersey for the past 18 years. I can't even believe I'm saying that. It's such a long time. And so during that time, I've done mostly litigation, and I've pivoted recently in a couple directions. I co-founded with my business partner, John Mocklinger. I co-founded Netsquire, which focuses on amicable divorces. So we do mediation and document preparation for people that already know how they want to settle. We're limited to New Jersey right now, but we hope to expand into other states. And I also have a podcast, Wake Up Call the Podcast, which is my personal creative project. And which also led me into my own transition. I go to Columbia University in New York City, and I'm pursuing journalism. So I have a lot of transitions in my life right now.
Yes, so many things. And I just admire that because I think there's two sides to transitions, right? They can be scary, obviously. And you know how I love to talk about scary things. But they charge you up, you know, they fill your bucket, they energize us, they keep our brain growing. And I don't know. So what made you decide to pursue the degree at Columbia?
Well, I was feeling like after 18 years of litigation, I just, didn't feel lit up anymore by that. And part of it was the fact that I was doing litigation, which to me is just another word for fighting, and just around this negative energy all the time.
Yeah.
And, you can't do that for many, many years and not feel affected by that.
Sure.
And I did start to feel the urge, even at the age of, 40 something, I started to feel this urge to do something creative. And so I started a podcast that was Wake Up Call, and just very casual, like a hobby. It interviewed people that I thought was interesting. And I found that I really, really loved it. It lit me up. It filled my cup, whatever cliche you want to use. It just felt good to be in that space. And I wanted to do more with it and make it bigger, in some other fashion. Like, I don't even know exactly what that is yet, but
right.
Just do more. I, wanted to really lean into that. And so what that looked like at the time was, I'm going to apply to two of the best journalism programs in my area. So I'm lucky enough that I live right next to New York City. And those were NYU and Columbia. And I got into Columbia, and I feel like you don't say no to Columbia. So that's where I landed. And
right. But to build on that, you don't say no. Right. Like you had this. That's the beauty of this. And if people kind of embrace this concept of you did something to channel your creativity, you did which, is something was new to you. You had to learn, there's a learning curve. You did it. It opened up like your curiosity about some things. You were having fun with it. You realized it was a good fit for you. And then it was like, okay, I want to do something else. What's the next step? So you just didn't say no to these kind of urges, right? You had this little desire to do something. You were curious. So I think that's a great place to start, because then it opens doors. Like, you might not have thought of applying for the journalism program if you
Yeah.
hadn't done the part, right?
And I'm glad you brought that up because I can tell you're good at what you do. Because when I was really miserable, just practicing law and there was nothing else on the horizon for me. Like I just didn't know how am I going to get myself out of this situation? I'm not happy,
Right.
but what do I do now?
Right.
And I was so caught up on having this comprehensive plan. Like I've put so much pressure on myself. Like, oh, I have to know what job I'm going to get and go do that now. And I have to be qualified and I have to make money. And I worked with coaches and they made some of these same suggestions. I don't know if you and I knew each other at the time, or maybe our relationship was new at the time. And that's what these coaches suggested is, just follow your desire. What is it that you like to do? What lights you up? Say yes to those things. You don't have to have the whole plan in front of you right now.
No. And it doesn't even have to be it doesn't have to be right or wrong or a good idea or a bad idea. Just neutral, like approach it neutrally and say, I'm going to try this thing. But here we go. Here's the thing. Yeah. People say, well, I'm going to try this thing. Oh, maybe it's not going to, maybe I'm going to hate it. Like we get into the negative stuff before we've even dipped our toe in the thing. And then we talk ourselves out of it. Not everybody or all, I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but it is a tendency. It's like, well, and you mentioned the fact that you're in your 40s, right? Like if we just choose not to attach to that age or any of the constructs, the human constructs that we apply to everything, imagine what we would do, like I started my consultancy in my late 50s and I was like, here's the thing, one step, right? So to your point, Christina, don't think about the 17 steps. One step, just take one step. You may go left, you may go right, you may go straight, you may go backwards a little bit. Just take the step and without worrying too much about the outcome, not attaching to the outcome.
It's not about the outcome at all. It's about trying things, saying yes to things and figuring it out. It's okay if you try something and you think, I don't think that was it. I don't think that was the thing. But maybe you learn something about that and you pivot into, just kind of points you in another direction.
Oh, for sure. Like when we take our first job or whatever, or, you get into the job that you end up hating early in your career. It's like, oh, you just learned what you don't want to do. Awesome. Like, I tell my kids that, my adult children, like, oh, you learned something that doesn't work for you. Awesome. Gift and an opportunity. Like I get eye rolls about it occasionally.
No, that's important.
It is, right? It's a neural pathway you're building. Oh gosh, I just learned that I don't like that at all. Now I can move on to something else. Or, wow, I love this. And then suddenly other channels open up, whatever they are. So like your podcast. And so now you're going to have this. So let's get back to your path. So you're going to have this degree. And have you thought about like what's next? Like what?
Well, I have, kind of like two lanes that I'm in now because I do believe in Netsquire. And, I want to say that there was a time when I did feel lit up by my traditional divorce practice. And I did that for a long time and really felt like I was helping people. And then there just came a time where I didn't feel that way anymore. And my partner and I, my business partner, John, we noticed that there was a gap in the market for people that didn't want to fight and just needed some help. And there really isn't much out there for those people. Right. So that's why we created Netsquire. And I do feel passionately about Netsquire, even though I don't want to do traditional litigation anymore. I do feel strongly that Netsquire is something really good and positive for the community, for people that want to get a divorce and need some help. And I should also mention we do it for one flat fee because anybody's going through a divorce.
Which is amazing. And as a person who's gone through a divorce, and you and I have talked about divorce a lot, and I've talked to John about it. Talk about life transitions. I mean, it is one of the most harrowing, difficult, complicated emotional things that you can go through. even when it's amicable, right? Even when it's just
Yeah.
disruptive. And so like to be able to go one-stop shopping, right? Go for a flat fee, get the guidance you need, and get through it without all the collateral damage that can often happen when you start out with a mediator and then you end up going to an attorney and litigate. It's just like and I think a lot of the times people just don't understand the process that
I
well.
think so. I think people, still have this image created by the media and wherever, created by us, that divorce has to be ugly. You have to hate each other. You have to
Right.
be mean to each other, that you
Yes.
can't, dare I say, be friends, be amicable. And I also want to say amicable doesn't mean that you're friends and you're holding hands and inviting each other over for tea. It really means
No.
you're both committed to making this, I like to say, not a shit show.
Right.
That's all I need from you. We're both committed to making this easier than the alternative, which is going to court and fighting.
Right.
That's all you need.
And it's this and thing. It's not a but thing. It's like, yes, we can do this like, with compassion and respect as humans, still establish boundaries, still have disagreements, still get prickly about the money stuff. All of those things can happen, and you can be respectful and compassionate to each other.
Yeah.
So I just think people, and it's such an emotionally charged thing societally also. So in other words, what I mean by that is like everybody's got an opinion about your divorce. Everybody's got an opinion about what you should do. Right.
Don't listen. And actually, I went to an event where it was a group of psychologists. It was a professional event, and I had a table there. And it was really interesting that there was a psychologist there she said something that was very telling. She said something like, I just don't feel right, telling my clients to go see a divorce lawyer. Like, haven't I failed if they're doing that? Okay. And I thought that was interesting how this psychologist also has bought into this idea that if you get a divorce, that you are somehow a failure, that you have failed. And I really want to change that narrative.
Yeah.
Because look, this 2023 people get divorced, right? Isn't the rate something like 50% the divorce rate? That's what I hear. I don't even know if that's right, but it's a lot, right?
It's a lot, and it is a lot. And Christina, add it to the list of things that are stigmatized. I mean, look, divorce is a symptom, marriages end because marriages end, I mean, it's not a referendum on you as a human being. I mean, now a psychologist, really isn't the person that is going to tell a patient to get a divorce. But once a patient decides they want to end their marriage, then the therapist's job is to support them in the best way they can. And that may be go consult with a divorce attorney, so that seems like she's a little in the weeds in her own brain on that. But to take a treetop view, it's like all the things, parenting, friendships, marriages, like societally, we have stigmatized different things, struggles, mental health struggles. We could have 2-3 hours on that.
Yeah.
Sexual orientation, preferences, religion, politics, all the things. So there's so many stigmas and there's so much societal pressure on these different things. It can be really overwhelming for people because they don't know how to separate it out. They don't know how to strip it down and just stay in their own truth. So I think that gets in the way. And I think the service that's offered by Netsquire is so important. And you just have to evangelize it a little bit more, I think.
Yeah. We're trying to get the word out because again, like I feel like is my mission. You had asked me, what are my future plans? And I absolutely want to pursue journalism. To me, journalism is storytelling to some degree. I hope to be able to make documentaries, but I am still passionate about promoting Netsquire because I do think that it's doing something positive for the community. It provides a space for people who want to divorce amicably, want to keep their costs down, and really just want to get it done because it's a horrible experience no matter how you look at it, right? whether
Yes.
it's amicable or not. It's not a fun experience.
Wow.
Get it done. Just get it done.
Right.
And don't spend all your money. Like, keep that for yourself, right? Like, the lawyers don't need to take all your money. Don't let
Oh
the lawyers
gosh.
do that.
And it is, and they do, and they get a lot of it. And the more you fight, the more they get. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, they
it's like,
do.
who wins? They win,
They do. And believe me, they'll stop when the money runs out because they're not going
And
to go unpaid.
yeah.
So, but I always tell people too, like, as far as, divorce being a stigma, that's probably the number one thing that I feel the most passionate about is I want to change that narrative. I know it's a tall order, but I'm trying. I'm going to do it along with you, Nancy. You're not a failure because you got a divorce. You're not a failure because your
No.
marriage ended.
No.
It's okay. You're not
It's okay. And here's the thing that I feel passionate about.
Mhm.
Every person co-creates every relationship they are in.
True.
Divorce is never one person's fault.
Mm-mm.
People co-create their relationship. I take full responsibility for my failings in my marriage, and my former husband takes responsibility for his. Took us time to get there. Took us a few years to get to that point where we could have that compassion, but that's the fact of the matter. Everybody co-creates relationships. So, even when women, and look, I know there's a wide gamut, right? So there's some divorces that are just horrifying, really awful. There's abuse, or there's different things that are really awful and traumatic. And still in those relationships, both people co-create it. If it's that the woman is, or the man is enabling the other, or they're codependent in some way, you know what I mean? It's so complicated, but that's what I mean when I say to you, people probably don't take the time to understand all of that. And then they just go into the divorce process with so much anger and hostility and all the things. And that doesn't help, right?
Yeah. I think what's also really important about that process is not even just to get you through the divorce, but that's important. But I tell my clients when we have these kinds of conversations, you want to also make sure that you don't get yourself into another relationship like that one again.
Thank
like
you.
what made the relationship not work anymore.
Right. And you will do it. You will do it again and again and again if you don't have any awareness around it. And that's true for any life transition. So let's talk about you and your cool thing at Columbia, and you get your degree, and the self-awareness piece will help you in this, like it will help anybody in any life transition. The metacognition piece, what am I feeling about this? What did I get out of this? What sparked me about this? What was I not crazy about? Let me apply that knowledge and that enlightenment going forward. And then energetically, you're going to be drawn to the right people. They're going to be drawn to you. You're going to see opportunities. You're going to get your brain kind of primed to be on the lookout. These are important things that we can do for ourselves. And it's not hard to do. You just have to take the time to kind of sit with yourself, tune in, pay attention.
And what I would say the big difference really between the typical litigation client and the typical Netsquire client, and people, if you're going through divorce, like, pay attention. Which one are you? The litigation people are really stuck in fighting over everything that happened in the past, who was wrong, who has been wronged. You're never going to fix all that. It's impossible. It's done. You can't, right every wrong that happened in your marriage. And that's not what a divorce is for. Litigation doesn't serve that purpose. Although that's what people want, right?
Right.
So Netsquire, they're actually forward thinking. They're looking to, okay, we want to move on with our lives. We want this part done. Help us do that. That's the difference.
Yeah.
The litigation people are stuck in the past. The Netsquire people are looking towards the future.
And it's in litigation, often it's not just that I want to win, it's that I want you to lose.
Yes. Yeah.
And that is such negative energy to have in your body, right?
It is.
And when you talk about looking forward, it's like, let's get the puzzle pieces sorted out, right? Let's get the logistics done. And then you can go forward and build a life that you want. Now, I think, and I've heard that sometimes divorce attorneys will actually partner up with a therapist and work with a therapist, because it is so important for people to understand like how they got there so they can not do the same thing again. It's just, but litigation, even getting a huge settlement in a divorce, is not going to help you understand your role in that any better.
No, and the court process isn't the place to do that.
Right.
The court process, and I think that's another reason why people are just dissatisfied with litigation, is they think they're going to get that from it, but they don't, because, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor, but you can't go to court expecting to get what you get out of therapy or coaching.
Of course. And you can't expect, right. And coaching, thank you for saying that, is very different from therapy also.
It is.
Yeah. A good coach is not going to go there, but a good coach will be able to help you use the tools that you gain in therapy and apply those to your life in a really practical way. So I just think anybody that's going through a big life transition, first of all, needs to know who they need in their support system. It's different for everybody, but your divorce attorney is one person, but it doesn't substitute for all the other work you have to do as a human to understand what it is you're trying to achieve for yourself, what feels right, what feels wrong, how you want to build your life. And being in a negative spot where you're just blaming everybody else for everything is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that for the attorneys that do litigation, I think more of them should use coaches. I think it would actually help the attorneys too, because the attorneys, I always say 90% of my job is being therapist, not actually dealing with the legal process. 10% of what I do is actually dealing with the legal process in a contested divorce. I think attorneys should use coaches more, because they can help more with that mindset stuff and coaching or therapy, whatever you want to call it. Just dealing with the mental stuff, like, how did I get here? How do I move past this? Some attorneys can do that. They're good. They're self-aware, which makes them better at helping you. But, most of them, that's not what they do. They're lawyers.
No. And like some of it is just knowing how to talk, how to express yourself in a way where you speak truth without, putting someone else on the defensive. I mean, these are just like basic communication skills that sometimes we don't have. And when we get in fight or flight, they all go out the window, right? Because our logical brain just doesn't really work too well in that.
Yeah.
space.
And if you have anger that you're latched onto and you won't let go of it, I've had plenty of cases like that. There's one now in particular that I have, and one of the parties is just so angry. And I honestly don't see any end in near sight.
That saps your life force, the person, but also you.
Yeah, it's frustrating for all people involved, because it almost feels it just seems so irrational.
Right.
Like, why would you spend all this money? And these aren't wealthy people, so there's a finite amount of money.
Right. Now, is this a Netsquire case?
Well, I mean, we do still do some litigation, just because we're transitioning. We're transitioning to mediation practice. So we do still have some litigation clients, but we're really trying to phase that out. So that's why I'm still doing some litigation. And
so I have a question, Christina. Have you and John done like a basic Netsquire webinar?
I believe John has done a few webinars, and we have Divorce Happy Hour, actually Divorce Happy Half Hour live, which I believe you've done.
I've done that, yeah.
And so our podcast is Divorce Happy Hour, but we go live on our gethappydivorce.com Facebook page. Actually, I'll give you a link, because I might.
Yeah, I want to put all that so people can find you. So that's what I wanted to get to. How do people find you? And if somebody wants to just learn more about the Netsquire divorce process, how can they reach you?
Sure. Well, you can listen to our podcast, Get Happy. I can't even talk today. Get Happy. Divorce Happy Hour podcast. That is the podcast. You can find us. There's a lot of wonderful information on there about the nuts and bolts of divorce, or some of the more mindset, motivational kinds of things that we're talking about today. We also go live on our Facebook page every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and give little nuggets there. But our handle everywhere is Get Happy Divorce. And we want everyone to get happy. And if getting a divorce is the way you have to do it, then that's okay.
Yeah. You may not feel that way at first, may take some time, but a good way to start might be to get through the divorce process without a lot of shrapnel.
Our thing is that we want to take the stigma out of divorce so that people can leave unhappy marriages and be happy. So if you just putting Get Happy Divorce on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you'll find us.
Yeah. And if anybody who's watching this has questions, you can shoot them to me and I'll get them to Christina. However it's easiest for you. We want to support anybody watching who's kind of like dreading getting into the weeds on it, but just needs a little boost. So
yeah, and if you're not in New Jersey, but you have more of a mindset, practical kind of question, I'm happy to, talk about that.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you for joining me, Christina. It's like a half hour and it flew by. It felt like 5 minutes. I know. But we always have great discussions, and it's kind of funny to me, not funny, but it's interesting to me how aligned we are in kind of what we do, because it all boils down to being a human and dealing with human stuff. Right. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So thank you for being with me today.
Yeah.
This is my friend, Christina Previte. And thank you for watching Ask Nancy. And I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Shoot your questions in anytime. And in the meantime, be well. Bye.